Perfect. Yeah, all the sessions will be recorded. The slides will not be shared later. So yeah. All right. If you're just joining, put where you're from in the chat. That would be great. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'll just go over some important things. So welcome to the 2022 FGS College Prep-a-Thon. This is the first Prep-a-Thon that we're running this year. So it's combining last year's college fair with last year's mentorship program into one. So we have mentorship hours every day, which you should definitely check out. All the Zoom links are in the Airtable, which should have been sent out via email already if you have registered for this event. But yeah, all right, next. So hello, I am Julia Soon. I'm a rising sophomore at Cornell. I'm the founder and executive director of FGS, and I will be hosting a keynote speaking tomorrow. Oh, there's like a red. Someone draw like a red thing on the screen. Can someone delete that? But yeah, all right. Our impact. So for the past 2 years, we saw there's a really huge need for our platform. We have impacted over 10,000 students. We have over 8K across social media following. We have shared 240 plus unique graphics on our Instagram. If you haven't followed our Instagram, @FirstandSupport, and mentored 200 plus students. We have over 4,000 recipients on our mailing list. We ran the largest student-run college fair last year with 50 plus colleges. We have over 2K website visits per month. We have over 1,000 students on Discord. So if you're not on Discord right now, definitely go ahead and join. And 5 high school chapters in progress. And if you're interested in starting a chapter in your school, there'll be more information about that coming up, but there should be also information on our website. Cool. And for our College Prep-a-Thon stats, we have over 780 signups across the world. We have 20K prizes in total. And we have 15 plus speakers, 30 plus mentors in the mentorship hours. So definitely check them out. All the mentors are in college. They can help you with anything you need, one-on-one or in small groups. And we have over 15 plus FGS team members working on this Prep-a-Thon. And can someone erase the red thing on the Zoom? I think it's on your side because like it doesn't. Okay, no one else can see. Okay, cool, perfect. All right, our sponsors. So huge shout out to our sponsors. CPSB from Cornell, we have Sticker Giants. So attendees will receive stickers if they fill a feedback form. We have Version Empower, Fiveable, MCG College Prep, Jennifer, who's our advisor, who's going to have some consultation sessions, I Say Fit, Glamour Gal, and Possibility Lab. And the important info. So this is super important, and I will go over this link right now. It should be in the email that you have received. If you have not received the email, we are not shipping to international students. We only ship in the United States. So because we do not have capacity to do that. Try testing your speakers if you can't hear anything. Okay, cool. All right, so this is the Q&A doc that we have for everyone. I keep seeing lines drawing on my screen. If you can stop that, that would be great.
Yeah, I can see that, but I think it's on your side because nobody else is able to delete it.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, well, this is very interesting. Okay, cool. I think I can delete annotate. Can I delete? Oh, perfect. Oh, I deleted everything. Amazing. So yeah, so this is a Q&A. So we're going to go over this. So important links is on the Airtable. This Airtable has all the links, all the itinerary. If you join Discord, you will receive this. If you sign up, you have already received the email. So here are all the links for all the sessions every day. You can flip through these. All right, let me go back to the Q&A. Join our Discord. Here are the instructions on joining Discord. I can also send this link in the chat right now for people who haven't joined Discord yet. This meeting is just not just for first-gen students. Our mission is first-gen low-income immigrant students. But anyone can join. Yeah, so here are the instructions for Discord, and there's a video you can watch to how to successfully onboard on Discord. The Zoom links are all in the Airtable. Luma, so this is where you registered, only provides you with the opening ceremony link, which is this link. But you'll see all the other links in the Airtable. The Prep-a-Thon, I have explained it already. So it's like a mentorship program. It's like a hackathon, but for college apps. So basically it combines mentorship program from last year and college fair from last year together. So we'll have amazing speakers from top colleges, and we will also have daily challenges for you to complete to win some, earn some raffles for the prizes at the end. FGS's mission, everything is on the website. So we believe that sharing is caring. And we aim to provide advice for first and low-income immigrant students. And we need to empower FGLI students as well as educate and familiarize the general public with the unique challenges that FGLI students face. What are the mentorship hours? So these are daily office hours from 3 to 5 p.m. EST and 6 to 8 EST, where you can pop in and ask our college mentors questions about how to complete the challenges. You'll receive 1 raffle ticket for attending mentorship hours. And there's overall feedback form at the end of each day where you can fill out and we'll track your attendance. How can I work with my peers on challenges? You can work on the challenges by joining our Discord. The challenges will get sent out later today. Join our Discord and collaborate using the 5-bowl rooms. So the Discord link I already sent out in the chat. 5-bowl rooms is just this link where you can join any room you want. So I think someone opened the biology room. Basically, if you want to join a room with your friends and collaborate and make new friends from across the country, you can do that through here. And each room will accommodate 10 people with video. Paula, do we have any pressing questions right now?
No, I've been answering them in the chat, the ones that have been coming in.
Perfect. And how do the prizes work? So we have a if you follow our Instagram, which is First Support, you should definitely follow it. So we have over 20K in prizes. We have Hydro Flask, Amazon gift cards, and T-shirts. These will be raffled off. We also have SAT prep classes. We have stickers. So if you join our session and fill out a feedback form, you'll get a sticker. We also have college application reviews and career consultation. And for everyone, Christina is one of our speakers. She's offering Kindle and free Kindle book, and then course on happiness, as well as an essay AI. This is a $30 in value. So basically, you can plug in your essays on this website, and it'll help you correct grammar and like help you improve. So that's a great great tool to have. And the top students with the most raffles, you will guarantee prize. So you can either choose a college consultation or a school application review, FGS t-shirts, and stickers. Hope that answers some of your questions. Each event you attend and finish the feedback form. So there will be feedback form at the end of each event. You will receive 1 raffle ticket, and completing all challenges each day will be worth 4 raffle tickets. So there will be a series of challenges for each grade. And you'll receive 4 tickets if you complete all the tasks listed for your respective grade. If you only complete half the challenges, there will be no tickets given. Overall, if you complete 3 days worth of challenges for your grade, for your respective grade, you will receive 12 tickets. So if you're a junior and you're doing a lot of things in the senior tasks, you will not receive tickets for that, because you'll see in the instruction that everyone will receive a Google Doc, and then you can plug in your links for the challenges there. But doing other grades work will not give you more tickets. And yeah, I hope that clarifies anything. If you have any questions, who will be reviewing the college application? I said in the prizes, international students, we will not be able to deliver anything, but these are on Zoom. So the college, Jennifer who's a Penn grad, who is a college coach, and Sarah, who's from First Empower, who is also a college advisor. They will be reviewing stuff, but the prizes for international students are only the virtual options. So we are not able to deliver stickers or hydro flags or t-shirts for that.
Some people are asking what challenges are there going to be?
You'll receive an email today, and everyone will receive an email today in around like an hour. You'll receive the challenges. Do I need to notify someone if I ever had to leave for a reason? I believe the feedback form will be there after you leave, but I'm not exactly sure. So I would like if everyone can stay around until we all end the meeting. So you guarantee that we will have your feedback form. But yeah. How can you see when we finish the tasks? We will have a overall feedback form. We will have an overall form at the end. So it will be sent out Saturday where you can submit your challenges. But the daily challenges will get sent out.
Hola, bendición, tía, ¿cómo estás? Bien.
Do we need a team to participate? No, this is individual tasks.
Someone asked how they're keeping track of their raffle tickets.
How they're keeping their track of the raffle tickets depends on how many events that you attend. So basically there will be a attendance form getting sent out via email every day that will keep track of your attendance. And also we have your feedback from Zoom that we will cross-check to ensure that you have the ticket, the raffles for the prizes. And also the challenges, if you complete all the tasks for a daily challenge, is 4 tickets.
I have another question.
Sure, go ahead.
If I have to leave, not after this session, say after the next one after the college application review one, will I get my feedback sheet after that, or will I get it after the whole thing?
There will be feedback for each event.
Oh, all right.
Sounds good. Yeah, what are tasks that we should do? The tasks will be emailed. Everything will be emailed. So check your email often.
Someone asked if they get a consultation service for essays if they're an international student.
Yes, that's virtual. So we can allow that if you end up winning the raffle. But yeah, okay. Paula, can you, I think you can edit this. So I would like if you can add some of these questions to this document, some common questions in the chat, and put the answers in the chat in this Q&A. That'd be great. Perfect. I think that's pretty much it. And good luck to everyone. I think it'll be super fun. Yeah, how can we have the role in Discord for joining in the 12th grader chat? I would like if you can ask the Discord people, because we are not managing Discord. Prizes for eligible students, international students. So the virtual stuff. Yep, all the questions I think will get answered as you receive more emails and you check more emails. I think that's pretty much it. You can participate in as many events as you want over the days. All right, let me go back. The times are all on Airtable. here's the Airtable, and this is the link for Q&A. If you guys can bookmark that, the link I sent out in the chat, that would be great. Okay, and now we're on to Michelle. And before Michelle will give, Michelle's our keynote speaker today. And yeah, she will introduce herself in a second. But before we do that, can everyone turn on their camera and we're gonna take a group picture. Oh my God, everyone's so great. Okay, I love it. There are like 7 pages, so currently, so we will try our best to take picture for everyone. Okay, turn on your camera if you're ready for a picture. Wait, I'm gonna wipe my lens. Perfect. All right. Okay, I'm gonna count. Okay, 3, 2. Okay, we're gonna take like 5 pictures or like 7 pictures for each page. All right, so 3, 2, 1, smile. All right. All right, wait, and then 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, perfect. And then you have more people on the different page. Okay, 3, 2, 1, smile. All right, and then I think that's it. There are a couple more pages that have no one. All right, I think we have everyone. All right, Michelle, off you go. Yeah, and feel free to share.
Let me get my screen shared. Try this. So I'm having difficulty sharing my screen, even though I know I'm co-host. Do you mind sharing the presentation, Paula or Julia?
Yeah, Paula, can you share the presentation?
Yeah, where is it?
Michelle, can
I'll
you
share.
private DM Paula the slide link?
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, got it. Let me go ahead and share the screen. Can you see it?
Yes, we can see it. If you want to go into full presenter or full view mode,
Okay.
that would be awesome. Thank you so much. So, good morning, everyone. I just want to say before I get started, I want to say amazing job to Julia, Paola, and the rest of the team for making this event possible. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes for you all students. And so I love that we have about 160 of you currently on. I'm very, very excited. I'm in LA, so here it's very early that we got kicked off. And I know some of you are also on this side, some of you are on the other side of the world. So just know that we're all welcome here. Julia mentioned that the program specifically focuses on a subset of students, right? But we want you to all know that this is information that's important to all of you, and you might fall into one category and not fall into the other, and that's okay. So we want to just thank you all for your time here, and I'm extremely ecstatic to be the keynote presenter for our very first day in kicking us off. I hope you enjoy the presentation. And my presentation is called Growth is a State of Mind. And we'll get a little bit more into what that means exactly. And thank you for those of you who have left your camera on. I completely understand if you don't feel comfortable or you don't have a camera, that's okay. We'll have a chance to participate in the chat, and I encourage you to all stay active with me. So my name is Michelle Sandoval, and I'm the founder of Latina Talks College. And when I get a chance to speak to students, or when I'm asked to speak to students, I often get asked, what was your path to and through Stanford like? How did you get in? I mean, these are very common questions that I answer pretty much on the daily, of like, what activities did you do growing up? What activities did you do in high school to prepare for college? And so I think you're in a prime time if you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior, getting ready to enter your senior year, right, of college, to really prep for what it means to go to college, if that's what you're looking to do, and understanding the career path that you want to take. So I am going to share my story with you all, and that's how we're going to get started. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the second part as we get into it. Like I said, I often get asked this question. We'll go back just one more click, Paula, please. Yeah, we'll start at number 1. Thank you so much. So I was born and raised in the Coachella Valley in California. So that's in Southern California. It's about an hour away from the town that borders Mexico. I am a first generation daughter of immigrants. So my father's Mexican, my mom is Guatemalan, and Spanish was my first language. So I share this because it's a big part of my identity. And as you go through your own journey and as you prepare for applications, there will be a lot of times where you talk about yourself, and that's okay. This is part of the process, understanding, appreciating, and really acknowledging all that you are today and how that's going to get you into your next steps. And I encourage you to really appreciate and step into your identity. And I shared a couple of pictures because that's important to me. My family is extremely important to me. And the picture, you'll see me with my brother, with my older brother, and then in the bottom picture, you'll see me with my younger brother. Always been a fashionista since I was young. I embrace that as well, not just the immigrant part of my identity. But okay, number 2, please, Paula. So when I talk about my journey to and through Stanford, I think about starting young. I think about all the things that I did as an elementary, middle school, and high school student. So when they say, what did you do? I was very much a spelling bee champion. I enjoyed spelling. I've always been a nerd, and I'm very proud of it, because to me, being a nerd is learning. And that doesn't mean you're traditional, or it can be, right? Some students are like, let's not talk about identity or label ourselves. For me, it's okay that being a nerd means that you love to learn. And that's who I've always been. I was an 8-time science fair winner on a national level, a mathlete champion as well on district levels, and I did a lot of pageants. So I was very much involved. Here in the bottom left picture, you'll see me on my, I want to say 4th or 5th grade talent show. So I've been singing since I was a very young student. I was also drum major, so we're a very musical family, played a lot of instruments, and as you can see, soccer. So I include these pictures because it's showing you who I am, just like you all do activities. And you know, if I were to ask you what you do, that's going to shape you into who you are as a college applicant, not just what you're doing senior year, not just what you're doing junior year, but what little you was doing in 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade. Those are all hobbies, and those are all things that have stayed with you until that very moment. So I share that with you because I was very much a soccer kid growing up. I played for about 8-9 years, and musical kid as well. So next one, please, Paula. When I think about the next part of my journey, I think about senior year, I think about junior year. So these are a lot of wins. During senior year of high school, I was able to get about 1.4 million scholarships. I got 32 college acceptances, including a lot of the Ivy League schools and all of the UC California schools. So University of California, if you're familiar with the system. I also applied to a lot of out-of-state schools. For those of you who are international, we have a lot of state schools, and you'll learn more about this during this weekend, right? But we have state schools that are focused on each state specifically. And then we have national schools that are private schools. They tend to, you know, be more liberal arts focused, but we also have a variety. So I'm just sharing those. Those are just to name a few, but I did travel during this time, junior and senior year. I did travel to Williams University, which is in Massachusetts, Princeton, Stanford, UCLA, University of Chicago, Columbia, all on my own. So for me, that's a huge highlight because up to this point, I had not traveled by myself. And as a 16-year-old traveling to these different states and, you know, packing my bags and not really knowing where I was going or what I was going to be doing, I was fortunate enough to be able to visit these schools. Next one, please, Paula. During my stage at Stanford, I very much participated in a lot. So for me, it was attending college was the first time that I left home, was the first time that I traveled abroad, was the first time that I, came home with my family, and we have a college degree at home now, which I majored in psychology and I minored in communication. There was a Centro Chicano, which some of the schools that you will attend or apply to have these cultural kind of themed dorms where they allow students from different backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, cultural backgrounds to have a home. So as you're doing research, and you'll learn more about this weekend as you're learning about, which schools do I want to apply to? For me, that was super important, that they had some sort of diversity, welcoming environment. And I was fortunate that all of these schools that I've mentioned previously that I applied to had some sort of cultural home, cultural center for Chicano or Latino or Hispanic students, as I would label myself. And it was very important for me that they had that. I also participated in Ballet Folklorico, where you can see me dancing here in the picture. I participated in Psychology Research Lab, and my advisor was Dr. Dweck, and she's known worldwide for her research on that specific book that I covered here. And we'll talk a little bit more about that during the second half. That's what I'll be focusing on today. And as you can see here to the right, there's the Chilean flag, because I did study abroad in Chile, and I worked abroad in Guatemala and Ecuador, all through the opportunities that I had in college. And graduated with my Spanish certification. So if I wanted to translate, or I wanted to get a job as a professional translating in Spanish, which I encourage you all to do, look into, if you're bilingual, trilingual, look into any certifications that the campuses will have, because that goes on your official diploma when you graduate. And not only does that make you eligible for more money when you get a job, but that makes you eligible for different kinds of positions. That say we want someone who's bilingual. What better way to prove it, or to tell them, other than I was raised bilingual, than to have it on your certification, on your separate certificate, or on your diploma, which you do have to pass exams for, but that's also a goal. If you aren't fully bilingual, you can take language courses in college and then get the certification. Not a problem, that we all learn. And for me, a big win was that I graduated with 0 debt. So that's huge, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Next one, please, Paula. Okay, as I move on beyond college, right, I become an adult professional. And as a first-gen graduate, I'll share more about this, but I had many opportunities. I was hosting a television show in Spanish when I graduated. I went on to work for the Hispanic Scholarship Fund. It was a huge decision for me to move to LA. If anyone here is from LA and is joining the call, for me, being a small town person from a very small desert town that's predominantly Hispanic and Latino, in the Coachella Valley, moving 2.5 hours away from home after being away for college, it was a huge deal, but that was my dream, and I did it. And I encourage you all to dream big, and to, make those choices if that's what you want, to just allow yourself to dream big. And that for me was a huge win. And I continue to use my opportunities that I did with the Hispanic Scholarship Fund. I was doing events on a national level and working for the Gates Millennium Scholarship as well during that time. Next one, please, Paula. And most recently, I included here my biggest win. I'm currently the founder and running the Latina Talks College group. I have my Instagram, I have my website. It's my own business that I do have separately. And so I've been doing that for the past 8 years. And I'm also a director for an educational nonprofit in LA. So I manage both, as well as being, a daughter of immigrant parents. And I constantly kind of use that in my advantage to help my family and help my hometown back home. In the past 8 years, I wanted to provide this context, since we are here as part of the conversation of being first-generation low-income students. In the past 8 years, about 99% of the 1,500 plus students I have worked with are first-generation college students. And that is a combination of students going to college for their first time or having siblings, but also being, daughters or sons of immigrant parents. And so I share that because I welcome those students. I welcome all students. And I find that those kinds of students, or you all, might gravitate towards my experience. And I think it's important to acknowledge, because there's a lot of, paving the way that we have done, just like you will do in your future. And I encourage you to identify with that if that's something that's called to you. Thank you so much. We're going to go on to the second part. So before you click, Paola, please, I am sharing with students, these are my wins. The reality is that I didn't just want to talk to you about myself and my wins as if I'm perfect, as if that's all I am, because I am not just my achievement. This roadmap is literally what people see on a resume. It's literally the most on the surface response that I can provide as to who I am. But we're digging deeper today, because the reality is that we are more than just these achievements. If I hand someone my resume, it's what you see here. But I am so much more than that, just like you are so much more than that. And it's important for me to be vulnerable and to share with you all, because for every single part of this roadmap, I shared with you wins. Like if you look at number 2, I actually did not do this, and I kind of feel uncomfortable talking about all of these wins back to back, but I do it because it's important for me that you all see the contrast of what you might be, kind of labeled or created like your big wins. But the reality is, under the surface, there's a lot of challenges in every single part of this roadmap. There are challenges that if I don't share with you, you would never know existed. So that's what I'm going to do in this opposite or very contrasting roadmap. So if you click for me, Paula, we'll get into that. For number 1, I talked about how I grew up. I talked about my parents. It's so much of the pride that I hold in who I am. But also, let's talk about the difficulties. Let's talk about the challenges, and let's talk about how we overcome those things and how I overcame those things. So being a daughter of immigrant parents who don't speak English, I was the unofficial official translator for the family. And that's something a lot of students can relate to, but to this day, I still am. And my parents have been here for over 30 years, but to this day, I am the official translator for the family. I was also bullied for wearing hand-me-downs from my older brother. And to me, I don't share that. And I'm not sharing any of these things on this roadmap to encourage you to like have your own pity party or for me. I think that it's just important to be realistic, right? Because I grew up back in the day, I would wear Champion and I would be bullied for wearing Champion. Now it's like the cool thing to wear. And that's a clothing brand, right? But back in the day, it really was not. That's, I wore my brother's clothing, very gender neutral, which is okay with me. And that's kind of what my fashion is today. But back in the day, that was something that was really difficult. And I was bullied a lot for that. My older brother and I also entered first grade, and he actually was about maybe third grade when he started learning English fully. And we were placed into English learning classes, so ESL classes here in the US. And I share that not because it's a bad thing. I think that there's a lot of students with different backgrounds, and that's okay. The problem for me was that I was placed into these classes because I didn't fully know English. But when I was tested out of these classes and I started learning English, I was placed into higher classes, into the highest classes, and actually encouraged to skip a grade. So you notice the difference? My parents did not necessarily know how to advocate for me and didn't really understand what it meant to like get these different tests, right? And so it's important for you as you go through your process to really advocate for yourselves too, because there's going to be times where, your parents might not know exactly what's going on at school, but there's communication and there's advocating for yourself. Number 2, please. So when I talk about the wins that I had as a student, I was also, I told you about the spelling bee, I told you about the science fairs, I told you about the history fairs. I was very much very competitive and continue to be. But I was doing all of this in high school while my father was facing a life-altering illness. He was actually sick for like 2-ish years where he was not the man that I knew. It was very, very difficult. And when I look back to my entire life, this was probably the most difficult 2 years of my life. I was juggling being a caretaker for him, and luckily he recovered and is doing much better. But for me, I was juggling being a full-time student, taking a full schedule of AP classes, and I was still an athlete. So I was, in the choir, I was playing tennis, I was playing basketball. And then it's like, oh, college applications. I literally felt like there was this huge weight and pressure on me. And I am very transparent with you all because there will be times where you feel like there's just a lot going on. And I encourage you to ask for help. And by help, I mean, if you want to see a therapist or psychologist, I encourage you to do that. If you want to talk to someone, maybe let your teachers in a little. If I hadn't let my teachers in during this time, I don't know that I would have passed my classes because there was times where I didn't sleep. I was working really hard to take care of the family or to take care of at least my dad and making sure that my siblings were fine. And I had to tell my teachers because they noticed that something was going on and I was just tired all the time. Like, I know that you feel like you might be tired, but there's moments where you're tired. and it was noticeable. So I just encourage you to talk to adults who might be able to help you. Next one, please. Remember when I talked about being able to visit all of these colleges that I was accepted to and how I traveled on my own and everything? So the flip side of that is that I wasn't able to afford those college visits. A lot of the students that were traveling during that time, and you'll encounter this as you have your wins and as you're invited to these campuses, the schools say, oh my gosh, congratulations, you know, we want you to come here, come visit us. And then it's like, well, how do I get my flight? How do I get a hotel? Where am I staying? Some of these campuses have admit weekends or fly-in programs that they'll pay completely and provide scholarships. I'm sharing this because I want you to know that these exist, but also I'm sharing this because at that point in time when I was a senior and junior applying to colleges, they didn't really have those full scholarships. So they accepted you and they said, hey, come visit. We really want you to come. And then my family was like, well, we can't have you come. So you know what I did? I sat down and I wrote individual emails to every financial aid office, told them about what I was like, my background, my situation, was very grateful, as professional as I could be at like 15, 16 in emails. And they accepted me and provided me financial aid to cover the flight, to cover the hotels, or to cover staying with the student. So I'm encouraging you to advocate. And if something seems like it's not attainable, ask for help. They can say no, but you don't know that they're going to say no. And one of the other difficult parts of it was when I was traveling alone, I made it seem very glamorous in the first slide, right? Like I was traveling by myself to all these colleges. The reality is that a lot of students had their parents with them or had some place to stay, knew someone where they were going, and I did not. I had no option but to travel alone because there was no way that an adult or my mom or my dad could accompany me because that was financially not an option. So on the flip side of it being glamorous, but if I hadn't told you, like we don't see that side, right? So I want you to know that there's you know the two sides of the coin, and there's always challenges, but we can get through them. Next one, please, Paula. When I mentioned to you that I was taking these quarters and graduating with a major and a minor, what I didn't share with you was that I was taking 20 unit quarters for all 4 years of Stanford. I also held 3 part-time jobs in addition to having my 20 unit quarters, all for my senior year. I had imposter syndrome in that I was one of the very, very few Latinas that was in every class. We walked into a 300-person classroom, there was maybe 3 of us, right? The percentages at these private schools here in the US are small. So for me, imposter syndrome was real, and we'll talk more about that. I got my first C grade. I'm not gonna lie to you, I was a very, very competitive student. Up until college, I didn't know what a C was, and then I did. And it was really difficult to, to navigate asking for help and studying differently. And it's okay. It's okay to, to learn how to study better or how to be better. Being away from home for the first time. And I also did not understand many cultural references because I grew up watching TV in Spanish. So we didn't watch movies. It was just like all of the cultural references from people my age go over my head. And that's okay with me because I have a lot of cultural references within the Latino culture that I do know. Okay, next one, please, Paula. So I moved to LA as a young professional, but there were learning curves that came with being a first-gen student. Like understand the lease for the first time, or understanding rent, or understanding corporate job etiquette. Like, what do I wear? What's a blazer that fits me? What's the fashion like? All of those things. So I encourage you to seek a mentor to help you navigate the professional world. Next one, please. And then lastly, I talked to you about being Latina Talks College founder, and I'm still battling imposter syndrome. And I still have the responsibilities of being a daughter of immigrant parents. And I constantly feel stuck between 2 worlds of privilege and also one of struggle that my parents could still relate to. And for me, that's okay. That's something that comes with the territory, but I encourage you to understand that that's normal and that there are many things that you might feel like are different and not normal, but they are. Okay, next part, please. So now we're going to transition into the second part of my presentation. I want you all to do me a huge favor and think about one thing that you think you're good at. So if you can think about one thing that you think you're good at, that could be anything, and go ahead and type it into the chat. I'll give us about 10 seconds to have as many types in the chat as possible. Awesome. I see here fashion, art, cooking, self-awareness. Awesome. I think self-awareness is very important to have. Research, learning. Yes, you can be good at learning. Pageants, community organizing. Ooh, I like that one. math, singing. I think I'm a good listener. All very important skills. Okay, and so some of you already started, but now we're going to think about one thing that you're bad at and go ahead and type it as well. We're going to do that quick transition from good to bad, something that I'm bad at, and it can be anything. You'll see a theme. I think we're running into time management and math being our top candidates right now. Accepting failure, that's very common. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing. Yep. I think I tend to see math very often, but I love that we have a huge variety of things. Okay, so you can continue to type them into the chat, not a problem. What we're gonna do is move on, and we're actually gonna come to this. So remember what you put in as your thing that you're good at and your thing that you're bad at, and we'll come back to this at the very end of the presentation. Next one, please. So the main things that I wanna talk to you today about, in addition to sharing my story, was to understand the difference between the growth and fixed mindset. And we want to understand how our mind impacts our learning. There's a huge amount of research that tells us how our minds and how we think impact the way we learn. So I want you to, by the end of this conversation, I want you to know what you can do to be college ready using what we know about the growth mindset. Next, Paola. So let's compare the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. This might be new terms to all of you. It was new to me when I started doing research at Stanford under Dr. Dweck. And it's okay. I had no clue what she was talking about, but I learned. And I'm hoping that in these minutes that we have together, I'll share with you and we can learn together. So when people talk about fixed mindset, we think about intelligence as a fixed trait, something similar to eye color. So when you ask someone if they think that intelligence can change, some people, and you might be on one of the two, there's no right or wrong. This is a learning opportunity. They view intelligence as a fixed trait, similar to eye color. So if they say, hey, how good are you at math? We view it as like, you're kind of either good at it or bad at it, similar to how you can't change eye color, right? So students or people who are more like a fixed mindset in this way, they basically believe that people are born with a certain amount of it. And even though you work hard, it's not like you can change that much about it. In the opposite end, the growth mindset is the one that we want to develop. And people who believe in the growth mindset believe that you can grow your intelligence through effort. So for example, they think of intelligence as a muscle, where the more you practice, the more you use it, the bigger the muscle gets. That's how some people view intelligence. So I asked you about different traits, and I want you to also know that just because we view intelligence as a fixed trait does not mean that you can't have a growth mindset about another trait, right? Like some of you might think intelligence when it comes to math is pretty fixed. But when we talk about sports, there's a lot of growth mindset there, right? You might think that you can get so much better at basketball if you practice. So just because you have a fixed mindset in one area or you have a growth mindset in another does not mean that you can't grow it or that you can't change or that it can't become the other one day. Next one, please, Paula. So the importance of understanding this is that we can reframe our own lens, because the way that we view something affects the way that we interpret things that happen. And when we interpret things that happen, that affects our actions, right? Something happens to you, you think about it, you process it, and that determines how you act on it or how you act moving forward. So it's important to understand how we frame the own narrative of what happens to us on a daily basis, or as you all as students, so that we can then use the growth mindset to possibly do better. Let's go to the next one, please. So the main differences that I hope to share with you all is that under the fixed mindset, where students or individuals believe that something is fixed, similar to like your eye color, the main goal is that people want to look smart. If you think that intelligence is fixed and you can't really change it, my main goal is going to be to look smart. So if you ask students, for example, like, what's your goal when doing this homework? To get the top grade, to not make mistakes, to do it right the first time. Do we value effort? No, because I'm so smart. I mean, why am I going to show my classmates that I'm trying, right? So you see this trend of it's pretty fixed. I don't have to try. I should get it right the first time. I shouldn't be showing someone how many hours of notes I took down in my journal or typed up. And what happens when we fail? We give up, because you're like, oh, I should have gotten it right the first time or the second time. And maybe it's just not for me. On the opposite end, with the growth mindset, our goal is to learn. Our goal is to learn, and that means valuing effort. If it took you 10 times, that's okay, because I learned. We react to failure by working harder or studying differently or studying smarter, right? So there's the differences, and we'll talk a little bit more about them. Next, please. The most important thing is that mindsets can change. Next slide, please, Paula. There's a term in neuroscience called neuroplasticity, and I'm going to get into the sciencey part of all that I learned, even though I'm going to be very honest. When I started doing research, I was like, let me just write the papers. I don't really feel like I'm great at science. And this is where I learned, because I learned that I did love it, and I did have the capacity to, but I didn't enjoy it because I thought it was hard. And so that's where my mindset had to shift a little bit. In neuroscience, there's a term called neuroplasticity that talks about the fact that our brain is made up of tons of cells, right? And so the neurons basically send signals to each other. And the more we practice certain neuron connections, the stronger they get. Seems kind of like common sense, but I think it's hard for us to understand it until it affects us. So I'm going to talk to you about 2 research studies. Next, please, that demonstrate this. So one, there's a research study that happened where the lab put 2 different rats in 2 different sets of cages, okay? So for weeks, these rats had friends. They had challenges, they had puzzles, they had a lot of fun. They were doing a lot. There was just tons of rats going on, tons of mazes. On the other side, they had these rats that had nothing. All they did was eat and sleep. They didn't even see other rats. They were just kind of alone. So what do you think happened? When these rats were taken out after several weeks and they were put into this very new, completely new maze, these rats that were in the previous mazes were like, we got this. Their brains literally told them what to do, even though they had never seen the challenging mazes in that second type of maze, right? Whereas the other rats that had nothing, no interactions, they literally could not function. There was just like, it was overwhelming. There was a lot of a difference. But I share this with you all because the way that they had used the challenges in the first maze let them develop the ability to solve like this, the challenges in the second maze. The fact that they were interacting. And the biggest thing is that their brains weighed so much more for the first rats that were in the maze, which is crazy to think about because they were using the muscles so much that it actually physically changed the weight of their brains compared to the second rats. Let's go to the next slide, please. So the second research example I have, and if you have questions about things that you might have missed, or anything you want me to clarify at them, we'll have a chance for questions. And I do not mind telling you more about these because I love talking about different studies. So the taxi story in London, the taxi drivers actually used to have to take this test called the knowledge, and some taxi drivers would study for weeks, almost years to pass it. So it's not like maybe here in the US, some students are like, oh yeah, we have taxi drivers or Uber drivers, they don't really have to study, they follow the GPS. But in London, they did have to take this exam. And researchers hypothesized that people who were taxi drivers had more developed brains or heavier brains. And it's kind of weird to think, like, why would they assume that people have heavier brains in one profession versus the other? But what they realized was that it was actually true. So the Londoners who were taxi drivers had used their brains so much and studied so much that it was like a physical muscle that had grown and developed for them to remember all of the roads and the transit systems. So when they compared the brains, the longer that someone had been a taxi driver, the bigger and heavier their brain was. So it's crazy to think even the time that they were taxi drivers affected the fact that their muscle brain had expanded and had formed different connections. So the more that you practice something, there's physical changes that happen. And when you think about it that way, to me, I was mind blown. I couldn't believe it because I thought we have our brains a certain way. Yeah, there's muscles within it, but how is that going to change? That changes the shape within it. That changes the weight and the density. Next slide, please. So like, great, this information is awesome, but what can you do? So as a student, I put down our 3 tips of things that I recommend that you can do in high school and going in through college that will really help you kind of implement what we've learned about the growth mindset. Next slide, please. So the 3 main tips. Number 1, to praise the process, not the person. Number 2, I want you to practice how can I do that? And number 3, I want you to also practice the power of yet. Now we'll get into each one. Next, please. When I say praise the process, if you think back to when we talked about someone who thinks that things are fixed versus the growth mindset, you think about you doing something well. Like, let's say you take a math exam and you're like, yeah, I mean, math intelligence is pretty fixed, I know I'm good at math. So you don't really value that much effort because it comes to you innately, right? So when you get something good, you're like, yeah, of course I did great. Like, I love math. Or when you do something bad, you're like, oh, today maybe I'm not that great at math. You're praising you, but you're not your challenges. You're not your, you should not identify or label yourself as your wins or failures. You are the process. So I want you to praise the process and whatever it took for you to get there. Give yourself feedback on things that highlight the values of planning, right? You're here today. You're valuing the planning. You're valuing practicing and thinking through what it's going to be like applying to college, and try different learning strategies. So when I talk about being college ready, I want to encourage you to take challenging courses, to see what you've learned along the way, reflect on it, journal, write it down, try different study methods and note-taking strategies. I am a flashcard person. I struggle without flashcards because I'm a visual learner. But some people I know like to just write down everything. Some people don't even like taking notes. You want to discover what works for you and try it out. Next one, please. I want you to also celebrate the small wins. Go back one, please. Thank you. I want you to also celebrate the small wins, one application at a time, one scholarship at a time. That's praising yourself throughout the process. Don't be afraid to try new things that require effort. You might not be the best at soccer the first time, but try the club anyways. Try the different sports. It's okay to not be great first, second, or 1,000th time. It's important to learn and to enjoy. And the more you learn and appreciate the power of learning, the more you'll be able to learn different subjects and the better you'll be at just kind of expanding your brain. Next one, please. How can I do that? I want you to practice how can I do that? Invite your creativity to help you problem solve, think outside the box, and replace can't with how. For those of you who want to be college ready and really identify with being first gen, for example, or immigrant, or first gen immigrant, first gen college student, I want you to visualize yourself in spaces that you've dreamed of. When we say I can or I can't, those are very polarizing viewpoints, right? But when you ask yourself how, it gives you the space to visualize yourself and in places that you've dreamed of. I dreamed of going to this top college or top university, and I visualized it for myself. I also identified people when I was in college at Stanford. I identified people like me who had already done what I wanted to do. And this is especially true for those who experience imposter syndrome. Ask yourself how, because there will be people like me that you'll meet along the way who you might identify with. But I also encourage you to identify and the people that you feel like reflect you, and ask yourself, how can I do what that person did? And ask them. Don't just think about it. Ask them. Allow yourself to learn from them. Next one, please. The power of yet. This is my last of the 3 tips. Acknowledge that the path to success is not linear and looks differently for every person. We can add a yet because we have our entire lives to dream. If something was not attainable now, it does not mean that it won't be attainable, and we can add a yet. I also encourage you to be kind to yourself. Sometimes you just need a break. What does yet do? When we think about yet, something might not have been for us or there for us in the moment. If you have an opportunity and for some reason it feels overwhelming or it doesn't feel, I'm very intuitive. I'm like, does my gut tell me it feels good? If my gut does not tell me it feels good, I tend to, not go for something or be as enthusiastic about it. But I ask myself, is this something that's not good for me yet? And sometimes it might not be the right thing for you, or it might not be the right thing for you in that moment, but that doesn't mean you should close yourself off to opportunities. Okay, next one, please. Okay, so now we're going to circle back to one thing you think you're good at and one thing that you think you're bad at. And in your brain, I want you to say, I'm not good at blank yet. I want you to add yet to the thing that you said that you're bad at. So those of you who said I'm bad at listening, I'm not good at listening yet. I'm not good at math yet. I'm not good at fashion yet. And if you do that to every single thing that your brain is telling you, oh, you're not good at this. Oh, you did terrible at this. I'm not good at it yet. It makes it so much easier and less daunting, right? To develop that muscle and to help us do well. So I encourage you to use this constantly. It is really helpful and it makes everything seem so much less overwhelming. Next one, please. And the biggest thing that I want you to take away from this first generation, low income, Latina daughter of immigrants who did not know much English, starting school, who has struggled so much along the way, and who is so happy in doing what she loves and being with you all students here today. I love what I do. I love what I do in terms of the nonprofit that I work for. I love what I do when I talk about events. I love what I do when I work with students on an individual level. And for me, that's because I was not afraid. And I encourage you that if you are afraid, to be afraid and do it anyway. And that is my motto. And I share that with you because it has gotten me through very difficult challenges. Next one, Paola, please. So I wanted to end this by hoping that you took something away with a fixed and growth mindset. I'll obviously, be able here to answer questions, but I encourage you to stay in touch. This is my Instagram page. I have my website. My Instagram page is probably the easiest way to get a hold of me, and the QR code that leads you to my Instagram page. Julie, do you want to go ahead and have us open it up for questions? I'm not sure where we are on time. And thank you all so much.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing your amazing story and the growth mindset. I think growth mindset is so important, especially for FGLI students, right? Because we feel like there's always a barrier to college that we just cannot overcome. But I really like how everyone's engaging with you on that. I'm not good yet, or I'm not there yet. That yet really adds that uncertainty, but then it's also it also makes you less definite about the no, right? So yeah, I think that's super crucial. We can definitely open up to questions. Paula, do you want to moderate some questions?
Yeah, for sure. So earlier I saw a question that said, is it good to take a neuroscience major?
So I think it depends on what you're interested in doing. I can't, be the judge of whether it's good or not to take certain classes or have a certain major, because it really depends on you and what you're hoping to get out of your college experience. What I would say is that regardless of what major you take, there's the opportunity to take elective classes. And I kind of fell into having a minor in communication. Eventually I did do marketing, which means events, but I did that because I wanted to branch out and I didn't want everything to be within my psychology major. I wanted to know a little bit of science and have that college level experience. So for me personally, it was kind of like an elective that was very hardcore, but it's because I wanted to learn. And so I just encourage you, when you're deciding on your major and your minor, every college will have an opportunity to take a couple of electives to fulfill your units. So for example, if you need to graduate, they say, okay, to get a major, let's say, I'm just going to throw out numbers, right? Let's say you need 90 units. So out of those 90 units, you can take, let's say 70 or 65 in your direct major. From there, you'll have an opportunity to take electives, and they have a long list of classes that you can take towards your graduation major. That is where you have the freedom to add random classes. You can do dance, you can do art, you can do, sometimes they qualify for your major, sometimes they don't. But I just encourage you to take classes in whatever elective fields you're interested in, because you never know what you can learn. And for me, coming from a psychology background, it felt very natural to take some neuroscience classes, and that those counted towards my major. But I also think it's amazing to learn and to know more.
So earlier in the chat, someone also mentioned that they want to study in the US, but they're not sure if they're good enough to be accepted. Do you have any, words for them?
Yes, don't let yourself tell you no, let them tell you no. So if they were to tell you no and you're applying, that's okay. At least you tried. But I really discourage students from not even trying. I know that international students tend to have a more difficult experience because of the financial aid. So I would look at the private universities that tend to offer international students very good scholarships. And I would also apply to private scholarships. I think that it's a little bit more challenging, but in general, my general approach, similar to what you heard about me trying to fly to these programs, and I should say, when I got accepted to the different schools, I was comparing financial aid packets. And something that most people don't know is that you can negotiate. So I don't know if it's always been me, because I viewed my ability to go to college was very dependent on the financial aid that I got. But I got financial aid award letters, and little 17-year-old me without my parents went into the financial aid offices and said, hey, is there anything that can be done about this? Like, I don't feel like, my family can really provide this at this time. Is there any additional scholarships I'm eligible for? Is there anything else I can apply for? Is there anything you can do? Can you offer this in loans? And I honestly got a very good response from Princeton, from other universities, right, that you wouldn't even think would really be open for negotiation. And I learned that firsthand experience.
And then the student says that they last school year they created a workshop to raise awareness on the topic that you just spoke of. And their question is, how else could they raise awareness on the growth mindset? And are there any activities or exercises that you'd suggest that they do with their peers?
And also,
Yeah, I
one
love
second,
it.
one second,
Yes,
Michelle,
go
we'll have like around 11 minutes left for questions, and I think there's
Yeah,
a
no
lot.
problem.
So I would love if you can give concise answers so we can get more
Okay.
questions answered.
Yes. So growth mindset is still growing. I would encourage you as peers, like if you have a student group, and you want to read Dr. Dweck's book on growth mindset and do like a mini book club, I think that would be really helpful. It'll take you into college. But as of right now, there's not much that is being done on the research. I present on it, but it's not something that's like very, very accessible, and we're trying to expand that.
Somebody else asks, how do you deal with others' opinions that negatively impact how you view the college application?
I'm not sure that I understand this question. So if you want to rephrase it in the chat, that way I can answer concisely and, depending on the question, please.
And then the next question is, I fear that there isn't enough time to get better because I feel like I've wasted my summer. What can I do to have a better mindset?
It's definitely not too late. I also think that it's what you make of it in terms of time, right? If you have some time left, think about the opportunities where there are things you can do to really make the most of it. Is your community missing something? So when I think about the two types of activities that are super important for the college application process, I think they fall into two categories. One is like long-term, they want to see that you're really committed to something and love what you do. And how does the student show it? On the opposite end, there are activities or leadership things that we might not have done for all 4 years of college or of high school, or all like 7 years growing up. There are those leadership activities that can really take your application one step above by saying you went out of your way to lead something that your community needed, that your school needed, that your city needed, right? So identify those gaps and try to fill them. And those are less about how long you've been doing them and more about impact.
And then there's a question of what tips, advice, and suggestions do you have for FGLI rising senior students applying for college?
To not, I go back to this. Don't let them tell you no. Do your absolute best on your applications. Take the time. Don't procrastinate. What you're doing right now by being present is great. And also widen your options. Don't be set on a specific school and think that an acceptance or a denial from that school is going to make or break you. You are more than that. So widen your options, cast a bigger net. Look at amazing schools that offer you what you're looking for out of your college experience, and don't go just off of the name. Go off the culture, go off the financial aid, go off all of these things. So when you apply, you have options, and then you can choose. Some students I see, apply to maybe a handful because of the name or because they had a family member go there. When you don't get accepted, which obviously I'm not hoping for anyone, but the reality is that there will be acceptances and denials from different schools or rejections. It's important that you have options so that you still have plenty of yeses that you can choose from later and compare financial aid awards.
And a lot of people have questions about scholarships. So I guess like an overall blanket would be, how did you find scholarships? Where did you look for them? What was the application process like?
Yeah, I lived in the computer lab at my high school. I'm not gonna lie. Like I became best friends with the with the secretary who worked there and my public library because I didn't have, I know it's hard to believe, but I didn't have, I didn't have fixed access to internet. So actually we didn't have a computer at home. So I would borrow my friend's computer, live at the library, live at the computer lab at the school. And I just encourage you all to ask your school, ask your counselors, also do a lot of research. There's tons of research. There's tons of resources that like Julia provides through the FGS page. There's tons of resources that go out through a lot of pages on Instagram, including mine as well. And so you want to apply the ones that you're eligible to and not just say, oh, well, I applied to these big ones and I didn't get them, because your smaller local ones tend to give you one, more money if you add them up, and two, they'll give them to you directly. So some of my scholarships I actually used to buy a computer for college. I was able to do that versus on a national level, you might not, be able to access the money directly if you were to need it. They just give it directly to your college. So just apply is what I say, and reuse those essays. Don't start from scratch every time. We've got to think smart.
As how are you able to do things?
I'm sorry, it cut out.
Everything, like all the activities that
Sorry, Paola, it's cutting out. I believe I heard you say, how are you able to juggle all the activities? You basically just have to learn and adapt as you go and figure it out by asking for help, right? Like I can't say that I did it all alone. I had the support of my parents when they could. I had the support of teachers who I still stay in touch with. And I actually, help them with current students applying to college. So I think it's important that you think of those people in your lives as those who want to see you succeed, and ask for help when you need it and be transparent. And also you got to stay disciplined. You got to think long term. What is the goal that I'm heading at? Like, I'm going to be really honest, when I was in high school, I didn't think about those smaller things of like partying or things, because my bigger goal of going to college in that moment, I was like, I got to get the applications out. So I learned to prioritize based off of my long-term goals and short-term goals versus, sometimes just procrastinating because I could. And so I just encourage you to also hold yourself accountable if that's what you want in your long-term goals, and do the best that you can.
And then can you hear me?
Yes.
So someone asked, how did you feel at Stanford? Would you recommend the school and why?
I love Stanford. I live and breathe repping Stanford. Basically, I had the most amazing experience. I went in what I think as a kid, like I really hadn't had to think for myself much, or do things for myself much. But I think Stanford's an amazing school, and I think there's tons of schools like Stanford that have similar qualities. I am super biased because I went there and I had an amazing experience. But I also believe that there's a lot of schools that offer similar things and that you can make the most of it. And it's really up to you to find your community, to find your group that really supports you. So I would, yes, definitely recommend it.
And someone else said, I'm a senior this year. Are there any places where I can connect with a mentor, preferably free, just because my family can't afford it?
FGS, huh, Julian? So I just encourage you to be a part of, for example, this specific community. You're welcome to connect with me on Instagram. I think that it's just important that you also identify people I don't know where you're located, but if you can identify people that, maybe attended your school in the years prior and went to the schools that you're looking at, or have specific jobs that you're looking at, or maybe your parents know someone, or let's say you happen to know someone. I'm not sure how many of you use LinkedIn, but you can find people that have jobs that you want. And if you write a very nice message, a lot of people are really nice and will talk to you over just like a 15-minute phone call to tell you about, their career, or tell you about their job. I do that all the time with students just because I want to answer questions. And I encourage you to just kind of step outside of your comfort zone.
And someone asked, what can someone do to get into top schools if they have bad ACT or SAT testing skills?
Yeah, the two main things, right? One is that your application is not just your scores, especially as we learned during the pandemic. A lot of schools got rid of even accepting standardized testing exams. The schools that you're looking at might be some of those schools. But I always say, if there's a part of your application that's not as strong as the others, what are you doing to make up for it? How are you showing them that you can have those skills or can develop those skills, right? So you are not just one part of your application, but I also encourage you to find ways to fill those gaps and acknowledge, yes, the scores I get or got were not that great. But I also think we're in a unique situation where not all schools are accepting standardized exams. Some are, some are not. And even those who are giving you the chance to submit whichever ones you choose. So I just encourage you to be very thoughtful about your intentions behind like what you're submitting, and also be very aware, self-aware of like where your weaknesses are, and acknowledge those as you can in your application, maybe through like the written portions.
And then someone asks, how do you deal with opinions, whether it be from friends or parents, that discourage you from applying to selective colleges, such as people saying you're not going to get in?
Yeah, I'm going to try to share this as very concisely as I can, Julia. So when I did a tour at Stanford before I even applied, we went to the San Francisco area with my family on a family trip that we had to take. And literally I took a tour and I said, we're going to sign up. We're going to go to Stanford. We're going to go to Berkeley. We're going to do these tours. At Stanford specifically, the tour guide said that the odds of anyone in that group getting in were very low. Basically, like, you're not getting in. And if you're this kind of group, you're pretty much not going to get in, because our like percentage of Latinos, of Native Americans, of this, were like, in that point, maybe 5%, 6%. I remember that maybe this doesn't work for everyone, but in that moment, hearing them say that, first of all, I'm like, you're a college student, just like I'm going to be a college student. You have no right to say that. But second of all, that gave me this fire where I was like, how can you, without knowing me, just off of what you're seeing, just off of you looking at my family or like hearing us speaking Spanish, like, how can you say that about the tour group that you're in? So that gave me this fire to just apply to even more colleges that were more competitive. And I'm like, if you can get in, someone who's very, I had not nice words to think about this person, but in my opinion, it was like racist the way that they approached the conversation. I definitely was like, if you can get in, I can get in. I'm a good person. I've proven myself. Like, I'm doing everything that I can, right? And so I share that with you because I think it's important that we, think about like where we're applying to, but also have this own fire in ourselves to not let other people say no to us. And you really know yourself. You know what you're capable of. And I just encourage you all to apply and find the fire within to do that. As a first-gen daughter of immigrants, like, my brothers did not move away from home to go to college. And so for me, being the daughter, the only daughter, and and for those of you who are Latino and other cultures as well, can relate. A lot of people told my parents, oh, well, if you love her, you wouldn't let her go, or if she loved you, she wouldn't be moved away from home. They said these to my face. And I'm over here like, I worked my butt off to earn these opportunities. And you're telling me because I'm moving 5 hours away, I don't love my family? So I just ignore that because I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of, and I know how hard I work to earn every single opportunity. And I earn those opportunities. So when you go and you face these challenges or you hear these things, it only makes you stronger. When I was your age, when I was 17, 16, it would have gotten under my skin more. I cried many times thinking about the comments that people made about like, oh, affirmative action, things like that, which were said to my face. But coming to you now, as an adult who's worked my butt off continuously and has earned every part of it, I'm telling you, those things only make your that much thicker. I mean, my skin that much thicker. And I'm also able to help students because I relate a lot. And you have to know who you are and not let like one person or one idea really, really impact what you do with your own life, because it's your life.
Okay, so from here, I think we'll just take like 2 or 3 more questions. The next one
Yes.
is, what was your college essay process like?
The college essays, what I recommend to students still, I had all my different schools that I wanted to apply to. Then I came up with the answers to the essays that could be reused most often. So when I was applying to private schools, for example, I had University of Chicago, Brown, Yale, Columbia, Princeton, Stanford, as an example. They all had different essays, but when I put them into a spreadsheet, which I did do because I could not keep track of things, I just could not. There was just too many schools I was applying to. I thought about which essay prompts I needed to answer first and that I could reuse for the different ones. You have to, when you're reusing, you have to edit to answer the question at hand. So just because I started with one essay, it doesn't mean that I submitted that to every school. right? I had to shape it so that they know that I'm answering their question specifically. But I do encourage you to have like 4 or 5 responses that are very, very malleable. And malleable means just being able to adapt it to the question at hand. But you still think that, this, once you have a good solid draft, get it revised, you have, let's say, the third or fourth draft, you use that same essay for all of the other ones that talk about challenges. What are common themes? Challenges, what's a challenge you went through? What's a leadership role that you really shows who you are? What's a skill or a talent that you have, right? Those are common questions. So once you've identified those for yourself, you can reuse a lot of the responses. You just have to make sure that you edit it each time, not just like copy and paste, because it's pretty noticeable.
And then one last question that kind of blankets a lot of what people have been asking. How did you choose the colleges in your college list?
Basically, I am really competitive and I wanted to get into as many schools as I could to then compare financial aid award letters, because I knew that the financial aid was going to make or break my decision. And I said, okay, if I don't get in, I'll still have a safety net of schools that I'll still get into. And so I just had to apply to a lot, but that's also me coming at you, 10 plus years later, just telling you, like, you don't have to do that. You can come up with a strategic list. I was just really lost. I told you, my brothers didn't go to college. Like, I didn't have someone that I could ask. So I was like, just applying like crazy to scholarships and schools. But I encourage you to be strategic about it and identify which schools. First, identify the major that you're interested in. Identify the kinds of qualities that you have that you want in a college. So is it important that they provide you good financial aid? Is it important that they have, really good majors, that they have really good career support while you're there? Like, what are the things that are important to you about these colleges? And then you can identify the colleges. How far do you want to go? How close does that matter to you? And then you can start narrowing that down. But I do encourage you to have anywhere from 10 to 12, just because that's a good number for me. That's the number that I recommend to my students, because I want you to have options and also have, which I believe, Julia and the rest of the team will have later today, but also throughout the 3-day event, a way of supporting you to come up with your college list, because it's not just location and what they offer, but it's also your major, financial aid. There's a lot of things that go into creating a list, and you want to have some safety schools where you might be you might look exactly how their traditional student looks. You also want to have your schools that you're reaching higher, and then there's the third tier where it's like the very top competitive schools that you're applying to.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michelle. So we have to go because we have to open our next Zoom. I sent out the Airtable in the chat again. You should receive the email in your itinerary for the Airtable for the next Zoom. The next Zoom will be with Jennifer. She will talk about college essays. I think it will be helpful. It will answer some of your questions in the chat as well. But thank you so much, Michelle, for hopping on this, so being our keynote speaker, talking such literally like, I love your answers. Like, even though like they're very, I really like how they're very, very detailed, and I think they're very, very helpful. So thank you so much, Michelle, for being our keynote speaker and speaking about growth mindset.
Thank you everyone for being here. Stay in touch, and thank you so much, Julia. Good luck with everything else happening these 3 days.
Yeah. All right. Bye. Bye, everyone. See you in the next meeting.